Testing, testing. All right. Am I live? I think I am. I'm probably talking to myself right now, but that is fine. I decided to go and do a live stream a little bit before the game tonight. Of course, the game against the Chicago Bears, our Washington Commanders, Washington Redskins. I'm wearing the throwback. There you go. Got the throwback on. We're getting ready. We're getting all hyped for a game that is very honestly, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you're probably really hyped about this game because this is all that Chicago Bear fans have been talking about, honestly, since last year. I think we broke the Chicago Bears last year with that Hail Mary. I really think we did. I apologize, Bears fans, for saying that, but really, honestly, it's probably the truth. Uh, I feel like that we did break the Bears last year, and this has been a game that Bears fans have circled on their calendar for the last, well, ever since that the schedule was released. They saw this game and they're like, okay, revenge. I understand. I get that. I totally get that. Um, but yeah, I mean, you've got you got a big game tonight for Washington. Yeah, I mean, certainly it feels like a big game for Chicago. They have a lot to prove. They want to feel that Caleb Williams should be the better quarterback than what Jaden Daniels is because he was picked number one. I totally get that. At the same time, you know, so far, Jaden Daniels has had the better career, but these two guys are just getting started. So, these guys, I feel like Williams is going to have a pretty good career. Jaden Daniels is going to have a good career. We know it. But other than that, I mean, hey, tonight is also a very big game for Washington. Now, why do we say that? Well, simply because look at the NFC East. You had the Philadelphia Eagles who lost this past week. You had the Giants beat them. Okay, we've already beaten the Giants. You had Dallas to lose against the Carolina Panthers yesterday. So guess what? Guess what that means? That means that if Washington can take care of business tonight, then Washington is going to be in the NFC East lead. Now, yes, they will have the same record as the Eagles, but records against head competition, we beat the Giants. They lost to the Giants, so we get first place at least for a little while. So there's a lot. There's a lot riding on the game tonight. So for Washington now, we're looking at, of course, Terry McLaurin being out for another game, his third game in a row. Now, Terry has only missed like a three total games in his career up until this year. Now that he's missing his third game in a row this year. I know a lot of people are, they're kind of like, see, that's what you get. You hold out during the training camp, you hold out during preseason, and then you get the bag, and then you get hurt. Well, I mean, come on, it is what it is. But at the same time, we hope that he can get back healthy again. Um, I just wanted to ask. people keep popping in and popping off. I just want to make sure that everything is working correctly in terms of audio. Hello. Let me know if audio is not working correctly. Um, it looks like my Shure MV6. I mean, it looks like it's working, so hopefully it is. Let me know if you can't hear any audio. But anyway, so tonight we got the Commanders going against the Bears. For Washington, they have a chance of uh, going to 4-2, and like I said, they will kind of sort of take over first place, even though that they'll basically be tied with the Eagles. You got the rest of the NFC East with Dallas at 2-3, the Giants at 2-4, but the Giants feel like they have new life now that Jackson Dart is starting for them. He's breathed a, a lot of life into the Giants, so now the Giants have a lot of confidence. We're looking at tonight's injury report. First, for the Chicago Bears, you got Kyra Santos. Um, he is going to be out with a thigh injury. Uh, Jadi, Jihadi, is that it? Jihadi Walker, wide receiver. He's kind of a coach's decision. If he's going to be, I think he's going to be inactive. Luke Newman, offensive tackle, inactive. Tenoa, Capac- where do you get these last names? Um, and then Casey Keenum, of course, he's inactive. For Washington, you got Kane Madrino. He is out. Terry McLaurin, of course, is out. Ko is out. Josh Johnson, of course, he's the third string. Eddie Goldman is going to be out due to an illness. It looks like Debo Samuel should be playing tonight. Um, and we had elevated, of course, Ja'Cory Brooks and Tay Martin will probably see a little bit of playing time possibly tonight. Haven't really heard anything about Chosen yet. Waiting to see him get into the action if he gets into any of the action. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to go and win some games without Terry McLaurin. And, a lot of people feel that Washington is going to struggle without Terry McLaurin because he is our home run guy. But, because he's been out, we've been able to have some guys step up, right? We've had guys like Luke McCaffrey who's been able to step up. He's made some big plays for Washington. Of course, Jalen Lane keeps on coming out and performing pretty well. We feel like that he's going to be good. Um, so we got some guys there at wide receiver, and of course at tight end. Um, you know, you, we're still trying to use Zach Ertz kind of sparingly because you feel like you're going to get more out of him when you can kind of use him just when you really, really need him. Um, of course, John Bates came back last week, played pretty well, but Ben Sinnott, I have to give him a lot of props. He really came in, played really well in place of John Bates, and he's really been showing how well that he can block. Now, the thing is that he's not much of a pass receiving tight end. John Bates is going to be the one who's going known for his blocking. I've said all along he's our present day Donnie Warren, mostly known for his blocking, but will go out to be kind of the outlet pass receiver if he needs to go out and catch a pass. But I'm glad to see John Bates back. The defense tonight really going to have to step up. I think the defensive front's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams, and you really do need to put a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams. But the thing is that Caleb Williams also tends to thrive off of those um, off schedule type of of plays, and so you don't want to give him enough life to where he starts to scramble out of trouble, and then that's when he makes those really highlight real type of passes. And so, but you do want to put some pressure on him. You want him to run for his life, but you don't want him to escape, right? You want to be able to get to him. You want to be able to sack him. You want to be able to hit him. You need to knock him off of his game. And I think Washington certainly can do that. But with the offense, they have got to be able to score. I felt like in the Chargers game last week, Washington was able to kind of get in there and play their style of offense a little bit better as the game progressed. They kind of started off not so great. Really, honestly, started off exactly the way that they started off in Atlanta, which was not good. But having Jaden Daniels in there makes all of the difference in the world, right? And so Jaden really looked like Jaden by the time that we got into the second half. So really, I think this offense needs to be able to click. And I think what helps when you don't have a Terry McLaurin in there is you run the football. And they have been very good with running the football. And so I would say you continue to feed the football tonight and you continue to run, give it to Bill Merritt, give it to him. Chris Rodriguez, of course, Jeremy McNichols. Just run the football, run the football. But please don't have Jaden Daniels leading the rushing tonight. It's okay if he breaks out and has some big runs, but I would rather see somebody like Jacory having the big runs tonight and rushing for over 100 yards than Jaden Daniels. I want to see Jaden Daniels being able to hand it off to his guys and passing when he needs to. And, utilizing the tight ends a little bit more in this game, not having to put so much pressure on the young wide receivers that he's got, but still, wide receivers going to have to step up. Think also special teams. Let's continue to play really well in special teams. So far Washington has done really well as far as kick returning, with kickoff coverage. I think they have been really really good with that as well, and so I think special teams also plays an important part. Matt Gay, speaking of special teams, he has really came on and has been very consistent as a place kicker for us. Probably going to need him to be able to make some kicks tonight. So, I mean, overall, really the thing that's got me worried, of course, is not having somebody like Terry McLaurin who can really catch those home run passes. Really need to see. I know that Jalen Lane could get open down the field, but we really need to see him to be able to haul those balls in. If he can kind of shoulder that experience, that would be great. Now, one thing I've not seen yet is if Noah Brown is going to play. He did practice, so if Noah Brown is in there tonight, maybe he's going to give the Bears a bit of a nightmare. Dating back to that Hail Mary. Of course, Noah Brown always going to be remembered is catching the Hail Mary pass from Jaden Daniels to beat the Chicago Bears in 2024. He's going to be known for that probably for the next, honestly, the end of his career, I believe. But I would like to see him back because when he is in there and he's healthy, he does produce for us. So if Noah Brown can play, that would be really good. If we can't have Terry McLaurin in there, Noah Brown, Jalen Lane continuing to play well, Luke McCaffrey continuing to step up and make some plays like he's done. We got some receivers who can kind of make ends meet. That being said, I don't think you can go too far with this receiving core. You do need Terry McLaurin back in there. We need him healthy, and we need him back in there playing because we still have a pretty rough stretch of games that we're going to have to play. And so you really want to be able to have all of your guys, all of your playmakers healthy as possible. And so yeah, I mean, I hate the fact that Terry's out again, but again, If we can manage without him, if we can pull off a victory and be 4-2 without Terry McLaurin, then that gives you a little bit more sigh of relief that, okay, he can continue to be resting, he can continue to heal and be 100% down the stretch when we're really going to need that guy making that big play downfield. So, yes, we need him. Let's not uh, we don't have a number 1 wide receiver without Terry McLaurin. Debo Samuel kind of steps up and he's the playmaker as far as the wide receivers go. But you can't put it all on Debo. Debo is your number 2 guy. Maybe he can be 1B, but he's not really your number 1 guy to go to. So you really need that guy who can really take over a game. Debo can certainly make some plays and take over a game, but Terry is your main playmaker. So we really need him healthy. I want to see I want to see a game where Terry McLaurin and both Debo Samuel score 2 touchdowns apiece. I really want to see that. Um, so I'm just waiting for all these guys to get healthy. They really, really need to get healthy. So anyway, I know that I didn't really schedule this stream, and quite frankly, I suck on streams. I mean, it's so difficult because when you're recording these videos, you can kind of know what you're talking about ahead of time, and maybe you even rehearse it a little bit. You have an outline. I don't when I come to these streams, I just kind of wing it. So I'm kind of winging it for a little bit. I'm not going to have the stream go on for very long, but I feel like sometimes you just kind of need a stream to be able to talk to folks. It's a lot better, of course, when folks are chatting, because then we can kind of have something to talk about. I know that when I was doing these streams um, with Brandon when he was on here, it was a lot simpler because you had someone you can talk to. So even if we had no one watching the streams, me and Brandon could sit there and kind of chop it up a little bit. It's a little bit harder when it's just you because you almost feel like you have to be psychotic in a way, to sit here and talk to yourself. Uh, and that's what I do half the time. So, but anyway, I'm just excited because um, I really feel like last week was a sigh of relief with Terry just not Terry, but Jaden just coming out and being the Jaden that we expect him to be. I must admit I was getting kind of nervous because, his first game, he looked a little off. Of course, second game he had a terrible game, got hurt and all this stuff. Um, you know, out for 2 games and then coming back, you're kinda like, "All right, we really didn't see Jaden's best." And, this is already the 5th game of the year, and, he's not really looked too good, and things didn't start off so good. But once he kinda got into his rhythm, got into the flow of the game, he was the Jaden of old. He really started you could tell that he was back being comfortable in there. And with the flow of the game, the passes were coming out crisper. He was that 50-yard bomb down the field to Luke McCaffrey, I think really woke things up. So that's a sigh of relief. Now you feel like, okay, you got the Jaden Daniels back in there who can make plays and you have that sense of with Jaden in there, we can win every game. And as long as he's playing well, but now that we saw him being able to win a game for us to come back and beat the Chargers last week, now suddenly you do have that confidence that all right, as long as Jaden Daniels is healthy, even with that knee brace, as long as he's able to make some plays, he's healthy, he can win us any game, even if he's got to kind of take the team on his back and win the game for you. He's going to be able to do that. And so I'm excited with that. I would feel a little bit more of sigh of relief if we had Terry McLaurin in there, but we don't. But we've got some good receivers in there who can make plays. Of course, Debo Samuel, um, Luke McCaffrey has stepped up. Like I've said before, would like to see Noah Brown back in there. Let's see if he plays. But we've activated Corey Brooks, Tay Martin, so I'm not sure what that means in terms of of Noah Brown. Doesn't look like was it Chris Martin? Doesn't look like that he's going to be in there. Honestly, don't want him in there whatsoever. So we got some receivers who can kind of make ends meet until Terry's healthy. Defense, secondary. I think you're going to have to be able to stop these guys. Um, you know, Chicago is going to try to force the ball down the field some. So I really need to see Trey Amos step it up. Lattimore goes without saying. He needs to make some plays. And let's see what he does tonight. The safeties, you know, I would say Reeves, Jeremy Reeves, coming in place of Will Harris or Walt Harris or Will Harris, Will Harris. Can't get that mixed up because I know there was a Harris that played a long time ago for the Packers, who was corner. But with the injury to Harris, Reeves has had to step up, but he makes, what Reeves does is he's going to bring the load. He is going to knock these guys silly. And I think he's played really well. He's definitely earned some extra playing time. And so I'm really happy to see Reeves in there. I feel like when Reeves is back there, he plays pretty well. He's made some plays. He's broken up some passes. He's laid the wood out, laid some people out in the field there. But the secondary, which we thought at the start of the season was going to be our strongest unit, right now is probably our weakest unit. So they're really going to have to step up and make some plays tonight. I think for Washington, the goal is ball control offense to be able to keep the ball, chew up the time, chew up the clock, chew up the field, the yards, run the football, um, keep the football away from Chicago's offense, get on top early, don't let them get anywhere near the lead. So I think that's what you need to do. That being said, I would still hope that Chicago gets the ball first because I think it's always a good thing for Washington to defer to the second half. So if they're able to get in there and stop Caleb Williams, and then they get the ball and they have a long, methodical, uh, drive downfield, score a touchdown, field goal, something. I think that is the name of the game. Just keep the ball, chew up the time, score points, of course, but just take over the game and not give Chicago time. Because once that Caleb Williams starts pressing, I think that's when you've got him. And I think that's when the Bears start to get themselves in trouble. So that being said, folks, we're getting close to the 25-minute mark, and so I plan to not be on the stream for very long. I know that views on YouTube are still kind of down, and so I don't expect to get a lot of people coming in on this. And I haven't, I've gotten a couple of people here and there popping in, which I appreciate you guys popping in for a little bit. But I'm still trying to resuscitate this channel as much as I possibly can. Just trying to grin and bear it until YouTube is able to kind of start supporting us content creators again. They've not really been very good with supporting content creators, and plus with me being a Washington fan and not being a part of the DMV, it's a little bit more difficult for me because I live in North Carolina. And so I can't really be in the area, can't go to games as much as I would like to be able to, and so I really don't get a chance to really meet a lot of the fans that you meet on social media, and so because of that, I'm kind of an unknown commodity. But I'm not unknown to the fandom of Washington. I've been, of course, a fan since 1981, and so I've loved the Redskins ever since the early 80s, Joe Gibbs' first year. I actually vaguely remember his first win as a Redskins head coach, which was against these Bears back in 1981. They were 0-5 at that point. They beat the Bears in Soldier Field, and then after that, it really started off a chain reaction of wins for Washington that wound up finishing the 81 season at 8-8. Things were much better for Joe. It started off pretty bad for Joe, so much that If you've watched any of the specials, you probably heard them talk about Jack Kent Cook wanting to go and get George Allen back because he felt like he had seen enough, and but they stuck with they stuck with Joe. Joe turned things around, ended the season at 8-8, and then of course the next year they got into the playoffs. They got into the Super Bowl, won their very first Super Bowl for the franchise. And so from there, Washington had been this powerhouse, successful team throughout the 80s. And so I grew up being able to watch the glory years, being able to watch Washington, having that feeling that Washington's going to win these games more than lose. As a matter of fact, I was very distraught when they did lose because they just didn't lose that much. But I mean, certainly there were teams that I was like, man, I'm scared of them playing like certain years when the Giants were just on top, going to Super Bowls themselves. Those were very tough years to beat the Giants. During the 80s, the Cowboys really, after the first start of the 80s, they kind of cooled off and they were really not a team that was really competitive with Washington. It wasn't until the very end of the 80s when Jimmy Johnson took over that he kind of rekindled that rivalry between the two. Um, but yeah, growing up seeing the Redskins play like they did was fantastic, and I loved being able to watch football back then. And I think that's the reason why that I became such a big football fan was I was able to watch a team that um, was always favored to go to the Super Bowl almost every single year. And when they did go and when they won, it was just magical. It was almost expected, but it was just this great, great feeling. And so I want to be able to have fans who have never got an opportunity to have that feeling watching Washington play. I want them to be able to have that opportunity of knowing that feeling, knowing how good it feels. And it does. It feels really good to be able to see your team in the Super Bowl. Hey, we almost got there last year. We got to the NFC conference title. Um, that was a feeling all in its own. I mean, a kind of an awe feeling. Um, First time since 1991 that I gotten to see my team in the NFC conference title game. Would like to get back there this year, and of course, I don't want to just get back there. I want to win the game to get all the way to the Super Bowl. That would be great. And I feel like with this team that Dan Quinn has built between Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and will continue to build, I think they're getting there. I think they really are. I think this team's going to have a shot at getting into the Super Bowl. Really want to see them win it. Want to see them win it all. And so, how do they win it all? Well, you just got to continue to play as a team. Got to continue to have that confidence. People talk about, well, you can build teams that have talent on the teams, which is very true. But at the same time, there's has to be that sense of confidence that you just feel like there is no team out in the field that we will lose to. Like there's not a team that we cannot beat. And when you start having that confidence as a team, then that's when you're there. And so I think Washington has a lot of solid players on this team now. I don't know necessarily. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would actually say that. You know what? They have a team that they feel like will take them all the way this year. As much as I hope that they would say that, but I do think that they have a team that has growing confidence, that has gotten better. Getting guys like Kinlaw in there, he's going to become a big leader of that defense. I do think there's still going to be some changes ahead of Washington really building into that Super Bowl championship caliber type of team, but I do think that they're getting there. And I think that I think it's not too far away. Not sure if it's going to be this year or not. If it is, great, but it's going to get there. And I have all the confidence in the world that this team is going to be Super Bowl champions sooner than later. But you know what? they got to get past the Chicago Bears, and so let's see what happens tonight, folks. Thank you, any of you guys who have tuned in. Really appreciate y'all. Please, I try to come out with videos at least once, twice a week, and so try to catch those if you can. Um, I kind of killed this channel, especially after my views sunk so bad that I did felt like I couldn't really get out of the quicksand. But you know what? Just something just kept bringing me back, and I was like, you know what? All right, no pressure. I'm just gonna, I'm not going to try to do videos on a daily basis. It's just too much for me. And plus, I've got some other channels I'm working on as well that I'm trying to build up. So I've got plenty of work that I'm doing right now, but I just can't really stand to see this channel die. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Well, if I've got, one view, or if I've got 1,000 views or 100,000 views, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because I love this team and I love chatting it up with you fans from YouTube. So anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to get ready to sit down and start watching this game. But folks, just I'll be back in later this week. We'll talk about the game. And with that said, hell to the Washington Redskins, and let's go.